The recessional began with the newly crowned king leading the way out of Westminster Abbey, followed by members of the royal family in order of precedence. William and Kate walked with their children behind the new monarch, their faces reflecting the gravity and joy of the historic moment they had just witnessed. The ancient stones of the Abbey seemed to echo with the weight of history as the royal family made their way toward the massive doors and the waiting crowds beyond. The children maintained their composure beautifully during the processional, having learned to balance their natural energy with the demands of royal protocol. George walked with newfound understanding of his place in the line of succession, the coronation ceremony having given him a clearer picture of his future responsibilities. Charlotte moved with grace beside her brothers, her earlier excitement now tempered with the solemnity of what they had experienced together. As they approached the Abbey doors, the sounds of the celebrating crowds grew louder, creating a stark contrast to the sacred atmosphere they were leaving behind. The transition from the religious ceremony to the public celebration represented the dual nature of monarchy, both spiritual and secular, both private and public. Kate prepared herself mentally for the shift from witnessing history to becoming part of the public spectacle. The massive doors opened to reveal a scene of unprecedented celebration. Thousands of people filled every available space, their cheers creating a wall of sound that greeted the royal family as they emerged from the Abbey. The contrast between the hushed reverence inside and the joyous chaos outside was striking, representing the different ways people connected with their monarchy. William stepped into the sunlight first, his uniform and medals catching the afternoon. Light as cameras captured every moment of the royal family's emergence from Westminster Abbey. The crowd's enthusiasm was infectious, their celebration of the new reign evident in the sea of flags, banners, and smiling faces that greeted the family. He paused to wave at the assembled masses, acknowledging their loyalty and support. Kate appeared beside her husband, her elegant appearance drawing fresh waves of appreciation from the crowd. Her dress had survived the long ceremony perfectly, still flowing gracefully as she moved into the public eye once again. The way she carried herself showed both her comfort with public attention and her understanding of her role in supporting the newly crowned king and representing the future of the monarchy. The children emerged to thunderous applause, their youth and charm providing a perfect symbol of the monarchy's future. George waved with the practiced motion he had been taught, while Charlotte's natural smile won over everyone who saw her. Louis's enthusiasm was barely contained as he took in the massive crowd gathered to celebrate his grandfather's coronation, his joy adding a note of innocent happiness to the formal occasion. The royal family paused on the Abbey steps for photographs that would become iconic images of this historic day. Professional photographers and casual observers alike captured the moment when 4 generations of the royal family stood together in the aftermath of the coronation ceremony. These images would be preserved in history books and family albums, marking a pivotal moment in British royal history. Behind them, other members of the royal family and distinguished guests emerged from the Abbey, creating a stream of formal elegance flowing down the Abbey steps. Each person who had witnessed the ceremony carried with them the memory of participating in one of the most significant events in recent British history. The Wales family stood as representatives of the monarchy's future, their presence reassuring the public about the institution's continuity. The journey back to Buckingham Palace began with the same precision that had marked their arrival at Westminster Abbey. The royal family entered their vehicles while the crowds continued to cheer and wave, their enthusiasm undiminished despite hours of waiting along the ceremonial route. The children waved from the car windows, their energy restored now that the formal ceremony had concluded successfully. As their convoy moved through London streets, the Wales family could see the impact of the day's events on the crowds lining their route. People of all ages had gathered to be part of this historic moment, many having traveled great distances to witness the coronation and see the royal family in person. The sense of national unity and celebration was evident in every face they passed. The afternoon sun created perfect lighting for the photographers capturing their journey, the golden hour adding warmth and beauty to images that would be shared around the world. Kate pointed out particularly enthusiastic groups in the crowd to the children, helping them appreciate the public's genuine affection for their family. These interactions taught them valuable lessons about their relationship with the British people. As Buckingham Palace came into view, the Wales family knew their public duties for the day were far from over. The traditional balcony appearance awaited them, along with the formal celebrations that would extend well into the evening. Yet they had successfully navigated the most challenging part of the day, representing the monarchy with dignity and grace during one of its most important ceremonies. Their participation in the coronation had been flawless, demonstrating to the world that the British royal family remained united and committed to their duties. The children had shown remarkable maturity throughout the long day, while William and Kate had provided the perfect example of modern royalty balancing tradition with accessibility. As they approached Buckingham Palace, they carried with them the satisfaction of having played their parts perfectly in a ceremony that would be remembered for generations to come. The moment everyone had been waiting for arrived as the coronation ceremony began, with ancient words that had echoed through Westminster Abbey for generations. The Archbishop of Canterbury's voice carried across the sacred space, beginning the religious service that would transform a prince into a king. Kate watched intently as William's father prepared to receive the crown, understanding that this ceremony would forever change their family's position in the monarchy. The children sat, with remarkable stillness, their earlier training evident as they followed the complex ceremony unfolding before them. George leaned slightly forward, his young face serious as he watched his grandfather participate in rituals that would one day be his own responsibility. The weight of future kingship seemed to settle on his shoulders as he observed every detail of the ancient ceremony, understanding its significance for his own destiny. Charlotte's eyes were bright with fascination as she watched the pageantry and tradition surrounding the coronation. The beautiful music, elaborate ceremonies, and magnificent robes created a fairy tale atmosphere that captured her imagination while teaching her about the royal heritage she had been born into. Her quiet attention showed respect for the solemnity of the occasion while revealing her natural curiosity about the world she would help represent. Louis struggled more with the ceremony's length and formality, occasionally shifting in his seat or whispering questions to his mother. Kate responded, with gentle whispers and reassuring touches, helping him understand what was happening while managing his natural energy. Her skill at balancing maternal duties with royal protocol was evident as she kept him engaged without disrupting the sacred ceremony. The moment of crowning approached, and a profound silence fell over the Abbey as the Archbishop lifted the ancient crown. This was the climax of the entire ceremony, the instant when centuries of tradition would culminate in the creation of a new monarch. William watched his father with a mixture of pride and emotion, seeing in this moment the future that awaited him and his own family. As the crown was placed upon the new king's head, the Abbey erupted in the traditional cry of recognition from the assembled congregation. The Wales children joined in this ancient ritual, their young voices adding to the chorus that officially acknowledged the new monarch. Kate felt tears forming in her eyes as she witnessed this historic moment, understanding its profound implications for her husband and children's futures. The ceremony continued with the presentation of the royal regalia, each ancient symbol carrying deep meaning about the responsibilities and duties of monarchy. The children watched as their grandfather received the orb and scepter, learning through observation about the symbolic elements they would one day encounter in their own royal roles. These moments served as both history lesson and preparation for their futures. Distinguished guests throughout the Abbey rose to show their respect as various parts of the ceremony unfolded. The Wales family participated in these traditional responses, their actions synchronized with protocols that had been refined over centuries. Their participation demonstrated the continuity of royal tradition, while showcasing the unity of the royal family during this momentous occasion. The music reached crescendos that filled the Abbey with sound that seemed to lift the very stones of the ancient building. The choir's voices soared through the Gothic arches, carrying prayers and hymns that had marked similar ceremonies throughout British history. The Wales children listened with wonder, their faces reflecting the awe that such magnificent music inspired in everyone present. Kate watched William throughout the ceremony, seeing in his expression the recognition that his father's coronation brought his own future kingship one step closer. The pride in his eyes was mixed with the solemnity of understanding what this moment meant for their family's destiny. She reached for his hand briefly, a private gesture of support and unity during this public ceremony. As the religious portions of the ceremony concluded, preparations began for the recession that would take the newly crowned king from the Abbey to begin his reign. The Wales family prepared to participate in this processional, understanding that their exit from Westminster Abbey would be watched as closely as their entrance had been. Their composure and dignity would be remembered as part of this historic doleful. The children checked their posture and clothing one final time, having been taught that their appearance and behavior during the recession would be scrutinized and photographed extensively. George straightened his formal wear while Charlotte smoothed her dress, both showing the self-awareness that came with their public roles. Louis looked to his parents for guidance, ready to follow their lead through the final phase of the ceremony. The organ began the recessional music, signaling that the formal ceremony was concluding, and the newly crowned monarch would soon emerge from Westminster Abbey to greet his subjects. The Wales family rose with the rest of the congregation, prepared to process out of the Abbey and into a new era of British history. Their participation in this ceremony had been flawless, representing both the stability of royal tradition and the promise of the monarchy's future under their eventual leadership. The massive doors of Westminster Abbey opened to reveal an interior, transformed into a vision of royal magnificence. Golden light from hundreds of specially placed candles danced across the ancient stone walls, while elaborate floral arrangements filled the air with subtle fragrance. The Wales family stepped across the threshold, their footsteps echoing in the sacred space as they began their processional down the nave toward the altar where history would be made. Kate's dress rustled softly against the stone floor as she moved with practiced grace down the aisle. Her eyes took in the faces of the distinguished guests filling every pew, recognizing world leaders, members of the aristocracy, and representatives from across the Commonwealth nations. Each person present understood they were witnessing a ceremony that connected them to over 1,000 years of British royal tradition. The children walked behind their parents with remarkable composure, their earlier nervousness replaced by wonder at the Abbey's transformed interior. George kept his eyes forward, remembering his training about proper processional behavior, while Charlotte gazed upward at the soaring Gothic arches decorated with ceremonial banners. Louis stayed close to his siblings, occasionally looking back at the sea of faces watching their progress toward the altar. Distinguished guests rose to their feet as the Wales family passed their pews, showing respect for the future king and his family. Among the congregation were prime ministers, presidents, and members of royal families from around the world, all united in witnessing this historic moment. Their formal attire created a tapestry of international diplomacy and royal protocol, played out in one of Britain's most sacred spaces. The processional music filled the Abbey with majestic sounds that had accompanied royal ceremonies for centuries. The organ's powerful notes seemed to lift the family forward, carrying them toward their designated seats near the altar, where they would have the best view of the coronation ceremony. Each step brought them closer to witnessing the moment when a new monarch would be crowned before God and the nation. Kate maintained her serene expression while internally marveling at the magnitude of the event surrounding them. She was acutely aware that billions of people around the world were watching this ceremony through television broadcasts, making this one of the most viewed events in modern history. Her role as a supporting member of the royal family had never felt more significant than in this sacred space. As they approached their designated seating area, palace staff discreetly guided the family to their positions. The children were seated between their parents, ensuring they could be quietly managed if needed during the long ceremony ahead. The seating arrangement had been planned months in advance, considering both protocol requirements and practical needs for managing 3 young children during such a formal occasion. The Abbey continued to fill with the remaining distinguished guests, each arrival adding to the sense of anticipation building within the sacred walls. Foreign dignitaries, religious leaders, and members of the British establishment took their places according to strict protocols that had been refined over generations of royal ceremonies. The Wales family watched this choreographed seating process, understanding their role as key participants in the unfolding drama. William leaned slightly toward Kate, sharing a private moment of connection before the formal ceremony began. Their whispered exchange was barely audible above the continued arrival of guests and the soft conversations filling the Abbey. This intimate gesture reminded everyone watching that beneath their royal roles, they remained a devoted couple, navigating extraordinary circumstances together. Charlotte arranged her dress carefully as she settled into her seat, having been taught the importance of maintaining perfect appearance throughout the long ceremony. Her attention to these details showed maturity beyond her years and an understanding of her public role. George sat with the posture he had practiced countless times, while Louis looked around with barely contained curiosity at the grandeur surrounding him. The altar area was prepared with the ceremonial elements needed for the coronation, including ancient symbols of monarchy that had been used in similar ceremonies for hundreds of years. The crown jewels waited nearby under careful guard, their precious stones catching the candlelight and creating sparks of color throughout the Abbey. These treasures represented the continuity of the British monarchy through centuries of change. Members of the clergy took their positions near the altar, their ceremonial robes adding to the visual splendor of the scene. The Archbishop of Canterbury made final preparations for his central role in the ceremony, understanding that his words and actions would be remembered throughout history. The religious significance of the coronation was evident in every aspect of the Abbey's preparation. As the processional music reached its crescendo and the last guests found their seats, a profound hush fell over Westminster Abbey. Over 2,000 people sat in expectant silence, understanding that they were about to witness the crowning of a new monarch in a ceremony that connected them directly to the medieval origins of British royal tradition. The Wales family sat ready to play their part in this historic moment, their presence representing both the past and future of the monarchy they served. The car doors opened with ceremonial precision, and William stepped out first, his uniform catching the morning sunlight as camera flashes illuminated the scene. He turned to assist Kate, who emerged with remarkable grace despite the weight of her elaborate gown and the pressure of countless eyes upon her. The crowd's cheers reached a crescendo as the Princess of Wales appeared, her elegant appearance drawing gasps of admiration from the gathered spectators. Kate's dress flowed perfectly as she stepped onto the red carpet, every detail of her outfit photographed from multiple angles by the international media present. Her jewelry caught the light beautifully, each piece carefully chosen to honor royal tradition while reflecting her personal style. She paused briefly to allow the photographers to capture the historic moment, her serene expression masking any nervousness she might have felt about the ceremony ahead. George emerged next, looking remarkably composed for his age. His formal attire made him appear older and more serious than usual, a young prince already growing into his future role. He stood straight and tall, having practiced this moment countless times with his tutors and parents. His presence beside his parents completed the picture of the next generation of the royal family, ready to support the monarchy through changing times. Charlotte stepped out with the confidence of someone who had been born to this role. Her dress was a masterpiece of design, appropriate for her age while maintaining the elegance expected at such a significant event. She carried herself with the natural poise that had already endeared her to the public during previous appearances. Her bright smile and confident demeanor showed she was excited rather than overwhelmed by the magnitude of the occasion. Louis was the last to emerge, and his appearance brought delighted murmurs from the crowd. Despite his young age, he had been dressed with the same attention to detail as the rest of his family. His natural charm was evident as he looked around with wide eyes, taking in the grandeur of Westminster Abbey and the sea of faces watching their every move. Kate gently guided him to stand with his siblings, creating the perfect family portrait on the Abbey steps. The family paused for photographs, allowing the media to capture images that would be seen around the world and preserved in history books for generations to come. William placed a protective hand on Kate's back while keeping watch over the children, his dual role as husband and father clearly visible. The children stood in perfect formation, their earlier training evident in their posture and expressions. Distinguished guests inside the Abbey could see the Wales family through the massive doors, and a ripple of anticipation spread through the congregation. These were some of the most important people in British society and representatives from nations around the world. all gathering to witness the coronation ceremony. Their attention was drawn to the family on the threshold, recognizing the significance of this moment in royal history. Kate bent down to whisper something to Louis, her maternal instincts ensuring he felt comfortable despite the overwhelming situation. Her ability to balance her role as a mother with her royal duties was on full display, showing the world how the modern monarchy could adapt while maintaining its traditions. Charlotte reached for her mother's hand, a gesture that spoke to their close bond and the support system within the family. The Archbishop of Canterbury appeared in the doorway, ready to welcome the Wales family into the Abbey for the ceremony. His ceremonial robes were magnificent, adding to the sense of occasion and religious significance of the event about to unfold. Behind him, the Abbey's interior glowed with golden light from hundreds of candles and the elaborate decorations prepared for the coronation. William straightened his shoulders and took Kate's arm, preparing to lead his family into Westminster Abbey. This gesture, though simple, carried deep meaning about their partnership and shared commitment to their royal duties. The children fell into step behind their parents, having practiced this processional numerous times to ensure everything proceeded smoothly during the actual ceremony. As they approached the Abbey doors, the sounds of the organ could be heard beginning the processional music. The notes echoed through the ancient stone structure, adding a majestic soundtrack to their entrance. This music had accompanied countless royal ceremonies throughout British history, connecting this moment to centuries of tradition and continuity. The crowd outside continued to cheer as the family moved toward the entrance, but their voices began to fade as the Wales family prepared to enter the more solemn atmosphere inside the Abbey. The transition from the public celebration outside to the sacred ceremony within represented the dual nature of monarchy, both a public institution and a private family, carrying immense responsibility. Kate made one final adjustment to Charlotte's dress and checked that all three children were ready for the long ceremony ahead. Her attention to these details showed her understanding that their appearance and behavior would be scrutinized and remembered for years to come. The family was ready to cross the threshold and take their place in British royal history, representing both tradition and the future of the monarchy. The royal convoy moved through the streets of London with precision and grace. William and Kate sat in the lead car with their children, watching as thousands of people lined the streets. The crowds were a sea of Union Jack flags, colorful banners, and excited faces pressed against the barriers. People had been waiting for hours, some camping overnight to secure the best viewing spots along the route. Charlotte pressed her face against the window, her eyes wide with wonder at the massive crowds cheering and waving. She pointed excitedly at the decorations adorning every building, the bunting stretching across streets, and the elaborate displays created by local communities. Her young mind struggled to comprehend the scale of celebration surrounding their family. Kate gently reminded her to wave back at the people, showing her how to acknowledge the crowd's enthusiasm with the perfect royal wave. George sat more formally, having been coached on proper behavior during public appearances, yet his eyes betrayed his amazement at the spectacle unfolding outside their windows. He watched the mounted police officers leading their procession, admiring their ceremonial uniforms and the way their horses moved in perfect formation. The young prince was beginning to understand the pageantry and tradition that would one day be his responsibility to uphold. Louis bounced between his siblings, unable to contain his excitement at seeing so many people gathered just to watch them pass by. He giggled and waved enthusiastically, his natural charm winning over everyone who caught a glimpse of him through the car windows. His innocent joy was infectious, bringing smiles to the faces of even the most stoic royal protection officers accompanying them. Kate pointed out landmarks along the route, turning the journey into an educational experience for the children. She explained the history of the buildings they passed and the significance of the streets they traveled. Her calm demeanor helped keep the children relaxed, despite the overwhelming attention from the crowds and media. William occasionally added details about the areas they were passing through, sharing memories from his own childhood experiences with royal ceremonies. The convoy paused briefly at traffic control points, allowing the crowds to get better views of the royal family. During these moments, the cheering grew louder and more intense. People held up signs welcoming the family and expressing their love for the monarchy. Kate smiled warmly and waved, her natural grace making even the briefest interactions feel personal and meaningful to those watching from the sidewalks. Security teams communicated constantly through their earpieces, ensuring the route remained clear and safe. The precision of the operation was remarkable, with every turn and timing calculated to the second. Yet from inside the car, the Wales family experienced a more relaxed atmosphere, chatting quietly and enjoying these precious moments together before the formal ceremony began. As they approached Westminster Abbey, the atmosphere became even more electric. The ancient building stood majestically before them, decorated with flowers and ceremonial elements that transformed it into a vision of royal splendor. Television cameras from around the world were positioned to capture every angle of their arrival. The children grew quieter as they took in the grandeur of their destination. Kate made final adjustments to the children's clothing and reminded them of the protocols they had practiced. She checked that Charlotte's small bouquet was secure and that the boys' ceremonial elements were properly positioned. Her attention to detail ensured that when they stepped out of the car, they would present the perfect image of royal elegance and preparation. The car slowed as they neared the Abbey's entrance, where a red carpet stretched from the street to the massive doors. Members of the clergy, government officials, and other dignitaries waited to greet them. The moment was approaching when they would transition from the private family traveling together to the public figures participating in a ceremony watched by billions around the world. William took a deep breath and squeezed Kate's hand one final time. The children sensed the shift in atmosphere and straightened their postures, preparing to play their parts in the historic ceremony. Through the windows, they could see the magnificent interior of Westminster Abbey, beckoning them forward, ready to witness the crowning of a new monarch. The car came to a gentle stop, and immediately the sounds of the crowd grew louder. Camera flashes illuminated the windows as photographers captured every moment of their arrival. Palace staff stood ready to assist them from the vehicle, while security personnel maintained their watchful positions. The Wales family had arrived at Westminster Abbey, ready to take their place in British royal history. Their journey through London had been more than just transportation. It had been a connection with the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. The love and enthusiasm of the crowds had energized them for the solemn ceremony ahead. Now, as they prepared to step onto the red carpet, they carried with them the hopes and excitement of everyone who had gathered to witness this extraordinary day. The morning sun cast a golden glow over Kensington Palace as the Wales family prepared for one of the most significant days in recent royal history. Inside the private quarters, Kate stood before an ornate mirror, her reflection showing the careful work of her styling team. The deep blue dress she wore was a masterpiece of British craftsmanship, designed specifically for this momentous occasion. Every detail had been considered, from the delicate embroidery that caught the light to the symbolic jewelry that connected her to generations of royal women before her. William adjusted his ceremonial uniform in the adjoining room, the weight of tradition heavy on his shoulders. As the heir to the throne, his presence at the coronation carried profound meaning. The medals and insignia adorning his chest told the story of his service and dedication to the crown. He caught sight of himself in the mirror and for a moment saw his father's face looking back at him. Today would mark a new chapter in their family's story. Down the hallway, the sounds of excited chatter filled the air as Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis were being prepared by their nannies. George, now older and more aware of royal protocol, stood still as his formal wear was adjusted. His young face showed a mixture of excitement and nervousness about the day ahead. Charlotte twirled in her specially designed dress, the fabric flowing around her like a fairy tale come to life. Her bright eyes sparkled with curiosity about the grand ceremony she would witness. Little Louis, the youngest of the three, was having difficulty containing his energy. He bounced from foot to foot as his outfit was straightened, asking countless questions about where they were going and why everything felt so important. His innocent enthusiasm brought smiles to everyone around him, lightening the formal atmosphere with his natural charm. Kate made her way to the children's rooms, her heels clicking softly on the polished floors. She knelt down to Louis's level, speaking to him in gentle tones about the special day ahead. Her motherly instincts balanced perfectly with her royal duties, ensuring the children felt comfortable while understanding the significance of their roles. She straightened Charlotte's tiara-like headpiece and gave George an encouraging smile, her presence calming their pre-ceremony jitters. The final preparations were meticulous. Royal protection officers conducted last-minute security briefings, while palace staff ensured every detail of the family's appearance met the exacting standards expected for such an occasion. Kate's lady-in-waiting made final adjustments to her ensemble, ensuring the cape fell perfectly and the ceremonial elements were positioned correctly. William gathered his family in the main hallway, taking a moment to appreciate this historic day. The children stood in order of age, their posture reflecting the royal training they had received. Even young Louis seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, standing straighter and speaking in hushed tones. The family shared a quiet moment together before stepping into the public eye. Outside, crowds had already begun gathering along the route to Westminster Abbey. The anticipation was electric, with people from all walks of life coming together to witness history. Television crews positioned themselves strategically, knowing that every moment of the Wales family's journey would be scrutinized and celebrated around the world. As they prepared to leave Kensington Palace, Kate took one last look in the mirror. The woman staring back at her was not just a mother preparing for a family outing, but a future queen supporting her husband and representing the monarchy. The transformation was complete, and she felt ready for the role she would play in the day's ceremonies. The children were given final reminders about their behavior during the long ceremony. George nodded seriously, understanding his position as third in line to the throne. Charlotte promised to sit quietly and watch everything carefully. Louis, though young, seemed to grasp that this was not an ordinary family outing, but something truly special that he would remember for the rest of his life. Staff members lined up to see the family off, their faces beaming with pride. These were the people who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make such moments possible. Their dedication to the royal household was evident in every perfectly pressed garment and carefully planned detail. The Wales family thanked them warmly, before stepping toward their waiting vehicles. The morning air was crisp and clear as they emerged from the palace. The sound of distant crowds could already be heard, a reminder of the thousands of people who had traveled from around the world to be part of this historic day. William took Kate's hand briefly, a private moment of connection before they assumed their public roles. The children walked beside them, their excitement barely contained as they approached the cars that would take them to Westminster Abbey and into the pages of history.